name is not Oswald! It's Penguin!
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Will. You know what's been an absolute banger recently? The Absolute Batman comic series. Which is why, in this video, we're gonna look at a recent addition to his rogues gallery, the Absolute Penguin. Strap in because we're diving deep into this character. Let's get to it.
You didn't invite me, so I crashed!
Unlike the other iterations of Penguin, the Absolute Penguin is nothing like you have seen before. This time around, he was a childhood friend of Bruce Wayne's, and yet, we all knew from the very beginning that somehow, something would happen to him that would make him fall from grace and lead him to his usual ways. And, surprisingly enough, the push came indirectly from Bruce Wayne himself. Without revealing too much, let's cut to the chase and explore the 10 most important things we know about Absolute Penguin. Let's begin, shall we? Number 1. Before he became the crime lord Penguin, he was Bruce Wayne's friend. One of the things that makes Absolute Batman such a hit is that, in here, Bruce Wayne does not have the old money. There is no generational wealth. His dad was a school teacher, and yeah, he got murdered in Absolute Batman 2. In fact, when that happened, Azie Cobblepot was with Bruce, so the experience didn't just affect Bruce, it somewhat shaped Azie as well. But that's besides the point. Due to his humble financial status, Bruce and his mom lived in the part of town called the Crime Alley, and in the original Batman story, this was also the place where Thomas and Martha Wayne were killed. So you can imagine just how much living his entire childhood in a place like Crime Alley must have affected Bruce. This is where he made most of his friends, and Azie was also a resident of the same neighborhood. And the same goes for Azie and his ways. After the kids grew up, oh yeah, by kids, I mean the others from Batman's future rogues gallery. People like Harvey Dent, Edward Nygma, Selina Kyle, etc. Well, maybe not Selina. I don't think I should put her in the rogues gallery. Anyway, the point is that after these kids grew up, they took up different hobbies and jobs. For instance, Harvey went to the attorney's office to work. Waylon Jones, who would later become Killer Croc, would open up a gym. And Bruce, well, you know what he started doing. But our guy Azie, well, he became a petty criminal. So let's talk about some of that, shall we? Number 2. Azie's life as a petty criminal. As adults, Bruce and company met regularly for poker nights, so we know that despite their extremely diverse professional backgrounds and nightlife, they still managed to find time for each other, which is more than I can manage as an adult. Nevertheless, Azie and Bruce ran together for a while, and while Bruce managed to turn his life around, the same cannot be said for Azie Cobblepot. It's as if the life of crime was what he was born to live. In fact, in the first issue itself, Bruce comes to Waylon's gym to train, bursts a sandbag with his punch and all, very Captain America style. But here comes Waylon, seeking $120 for the damages and cleaning. But that's when Bruce notices a crocodile in Waylon's hand, and a viper wrapped around his neck like a scarf. Bruce asks Waylon if he was really going through with it, and the lover of exotic pets says, and I quote, "Azie hooked me up with the exotic pet license and went in with me too." Bruce then replies that Azie is going to get busted any day now. So his friends are well aware of Azie's ways, but then he helps them from time to time. I mean, he did get Waylon the said license, and he even helps Bruce later on in the story, but more on that later. Coming back to Waylon and Bruce's conversation about Azie, the former says that penguins know how to hide their eggs. Now I want to point something out here. It may seem that Bruce had a certain disdain towards Cobblepot, but thanks to his connections with the underworld, Azie served as a source of information for Bruce, which helped him with his nightly activities. Furthermore, when Bruce had no one by his side, his friends along with Cobblepot decided to help him with the whole Batman thing. I agree that the future Penguin was a criminal, but he wasn't a bad person or a villain. At least, not yet. As for the whole staying out of prison thing that Waylon was talking about, well, if I'm being honest, even in the hundreds of stories we have seen about the Penguin, getting caught by the cops is not really his thing. The man knows how to sneak in and out of situations, how to dodge death, and how to thrive. Number 3. Helping Bruce with the party animals. Now, close to the end of the 5th issue, Batman barely managed to escape from Black Mask, who nearly killed Batman. But this is when Bruce came to his friends for help and revealed his secret identity to them. Of course, everyone reacted differently to the news, but Bruce couldn't bother himself with any of that as of now. You see, he had bigger fish to fry. The party animals were still at large and needed to be stopped with immediate effect, and Azie saw a reason in this. Bruce needed to be flown to a yacht in the middle of the sea, and he of course could not swim or take a boat there. The safest course was to be flown, and Azie agreed to help. In fact, this was all detailed in the 6th issue. So, Azie and Bruce were on the former single-engine plane, and finally, they had some time to talk. Or, shall I say, Azie had time to vent out his frustration and anger. He was like, how on earth could Bruce hide that he was Batman, even from his closest friends? Bruce replies that he was just trying to protect his friends by keeping his identity a secret, which is when Azie speaks about how his friends felt about the news. He goes, Waylon wants to punch you, Harvey wants to arrest you, and Eddie says he guessed it weeks ago. Oh, and as for Selina, well, Azie thought she would find it hot. Oh yeah, as kids the friends would tease Bruce and Selina, believing they liked each other. Anyway, by the time Azie could say more, they reached their destination. I don't want to leave you hanging, so I'll just tell you quickly why Bruce was here after all. You see, Eddie revealed that Black Mask's entire network was too big to bring down, but that local servers could be crashed. And Bruce believed that one of those servers had to be on this yacht that he was going to infiltrate. Azie didn't have enough fuel to wait around, so he turned back after Bruce jumped out of Ozzy's plane. Number 4. Bruce always used Azie without his knowledge. In the first issue, we learned that Bruce had not been to poker night at Waylon's in a long time, and when Waylon asks him to join for the next one, he refused once again. But then, Bruce did go to the game. Of course, there was something more than hanging out with his childhood friends that he wanted. He knew Azie would be there, and asked him about the party animals, and if he knew what those guys were planning next. Azie took a bit of offense that Bruce was asking him such questions, simply because his business was a bit, quote-unquote, atypical. Yet, he reveals whatever he knew, that the party animals were just there to wreck the city with no other motive, and their boss, Roman Sionis, well, he would just kill people who met with him and try to make a deal. It was a fact that violence was not good for business, even for criminals and drug lords. So you see, Bruce almost always came to Azie for help in such matters. Of course, he didn't paint his conversations as an interrogation, but that's what he was always doing. And poor Azie kept telling him whatever he knew, unaware that he was telling his secrets to Batman. Number 5. Penguin was always the most on edge. By issue number 9, Waylon Jones was missing, and his friends could not find him. Bruce did all he could, from looking for Waylon in the darkest of Gotham's alleys and corners to rounding up criminals, beating the shit out of them and interrogating them. However, nothing seemed to help, which is when he contacts Barbara Gordon, from whom he learns that it was actually the Gotham City Police Department that picked up Waylon and sent him to the still under construction Arkham Blacksite Prison facility on an island off the coast of Gotham. This was all strange, very strange. On top of that, the city had taken Waylon's property, claiming it eminent domain, which only meant that someone, somewhere, believed that Waylon was never coming back. Bruce did a meeting with his friends Dent, Enigma, and Cobblepot, and yeah, even Pennyworth was there. They planned to break into Arkham. Batman planned to break in, while the others would help him. Once Waylon was extracted, he would be secured in Metropolis under the Witness Protection Program. And throughout the meeting, Oz kept losing his mind. First, he screamed at Alfred when the old man opened his mouth, and Bruce had to shut Oz up, saying that Alfred was there to help. But when the final plan had been discussed and agreed upon, Oz once again lost his peace and said that the plan was crazy. This time, even Bruce had to lose his cool. The man banged on the table before them, and Oz understood that he had effed up, big time. So he goes, I was just saying it's crazy. I wasn't saying we shouldn't do it. And this behavior of Oswald Cobblepot was not limited to this issue. He had been this easy since the beginning of the comic, and continues to be so in the later issues. Basically, in Absolute Batman, Penguin is more touchy and sentimental than his other versions, I would say. But yeah, sometimes his heart can be in the right place as well. But Oswald's emotional side is actually what brought him the most pain among all his friends when Bane kidnapped them. And this was also the reason why Oswald started hating Bruce more than anyone else, cause he believed that whatever he suffered at the hands of Bane was because of Bruce. And, if I'm being honest here, I do not think that he was entirely wrong. Let's dig deeper. Number 6. Arkham is the machine behind his corruption. You see, the real reason why Bane targeted Bruce's friends was to break Bruce by breaking them physically as well as psychologically. I won't go into the details of what Bane did to Harvey and Edward, but let's just say death would have been a kinder fate. Anyway, coming to Oswald. Bane knew that Oz was always a bit insecure about his height, and that's exactly what Bane uses against him. He broke nearly every bone in Oz's body, some in multiple places, but somehow he did it in a way that missed every vital organ. It was precise, surgical, and cruel beyond measure. After Oswald recovered, he was 2 feet shorter, with hands and feet crippled, and in a constant life of pain. That is what became the fate of Oswald Cobblepot, while his only crime was being Bruce Wayne's friend. And that is why Oz started hating Bruce in the time to come. In fact, that's why all of them developed this undying disdain for their friend. Number 7. Azie to Penguin is pure body horror. What really got me with Absolute Penguin is that this is not one of those, oh, so that's how he became evil stories, where the pieces were always obvious to find and place in order and we merely waited for the mask to come off. No. This one hurts more than that. Because Azie was not some bitter little monster in the making. He was Bruce's friend, a real one, and that exacerbates his transformation more than one can imagine. Ever since Bruce's friend group entered the Absolute Universe, people have been guessing that they would eventually become versions of his classic enemies. With Absolute Batman number 12, that theory pretty much got stamped as fact. Azie, Harvey, and Eddie do not become rogues through some stylish comic book reinvention. Bane puts them through outright physical ruin. Harvey takes third-degree burns across half his body, which leaves him scarred and pushes him toward Two-Face. Eddie gets turned into probably the most grotesque Riddler version I've seen in a while, with his eyes gone and the top of his skull removed so that his brain is exposed. So when we look at Azie, still stuck in a trauma-induced coma, the question is not whether he will come out changed. The question is how much of him will even be left. And yeah, that is where the body horror really lands. Azie has not even woken up yet, but Harvey and Eddie already give us the pattern. Harvey blames Bruce, though only half the time, which is a bleak little Two-Face touch, and he even holds a poker chip the way his main universe counterpart carries that coin. Eddie, meanwhile, takes the damage to his brain and turns it into a warped sense of purpose, convincing himself that Bane somehow improved him. So, if that is what happened to them, then Azie's path does not look hopeful at all. He now has lifelong pain ahead of him, a disfigured body, and more than enough reason for his mind to break under the weight of all that. What makes this version more tragic than the main DC Penguin, though, is how different Azie was before any of this happened. In the main continuity, Penguin's fall had nothing to do with Batman. That Oswald grows up under cruelty from his father and older brothers, gets mocked for his deformities, then responds and retaliates to all this with murder. Later, he kills his bullies and even friends he thinks betrayed him. You can see how that childhood hardens him into a vicious kingpin. But Absolute Azie is not built like that. He doesn't come into the story with those deformities, and he doesn't come with that same buried rage either. Instead, his whole fall ties directly to Bruce. That is the real knife twist here. Bruce starts digging into Arc M and its suspected criminal activities at the private prison, and Azie, along with the others, helps him as an informant and strategist. As I mentioned earlier, they are Bruce's people, helping him get close to the truth, and once they get too close, Arc M sends Bane to shut them down. So, if Bruce never became Batman, or if he never went after Arc M, Azie and the rest of his friends would not have been caught in that blast radius at all. Now Azie goes from a kind-hearted, slightly petty criminal into what looks like a broken shell. And that is why this Penguin origin hits so hard. It's not only about what happened to his body, it's about what Bruce loses with it. The people who once grounded him, helped him, and formed his support system now look set to become proof of his failure. And in Azie's case, with his ties to Gotham's underworld and his deep knowledge of Bruce's life, that future version of Penguin could end up even more dangerous than the one we know. Not because he was born cruel, but but because he was broken in exactly the right way. Number 8. Bruce led to Azie's fall, making him a crime lord. Now this version of Azie, this one feels personal in a way Penguin usually doesn't, and I think that's what makes him more interesting as a villain. This is Bruce's friend, someone who stood beside him long before the mask came on, and when Absolute Batman changes that dynamic and turns Oswald Cobblepot into Penguin through Bruce's own story, it changes the entire equation. The damage he takes leaves him in a trauma-induced coma, and when we see the aftermath through the covers for Absolute Batman number 21, the shift is obvious. He's shorter, hunched, supported by crutches that double as weapons. This is not a slow descent, this is a hard break. Azie doesn't come out of this without any grudges for Batman. He blames Bruce, cuts him off completely, and if you think about it, that reaction makes sense. From his perspective, Bruce's crusade led him straight into that moment. So the friendship that once grounded Bruce turns into something else entirely. Scott Snyder even hints that we haven't seen everything yet. Different crutches, more styles, more layers to the design, which tells me this Penguin is still forming. He's not finished. And that's the real shift here. Azie isn't becoming the Penguin because he always was one. He's becoming the Penguin of what happened to him. And, whether Bruce admits it or not, his war played a role in that transformation. In fact, when Azie finally gets his Iceberg Lounge, he tells his hired muscle to beat Bruce if he ever sets foot there. He has that much hatred for his former friend. Number 9. How on earth is Penguin able to walk after all that Bane did to him? This one really made me think about it for a moment, because Azie walking after what Bruce did to him doesn't make clean, easy sense at first glance. I mean, the damage is severe, and yet here he is, upright, moving, even functioning in the field. So what's going on? Anyway, from what we've seen and discussed, this doesn't point to him becoming some full cyborg. There's no clear indication of that. Instead, it looks like a combination of support systems and sheer persistence. You can see the external help right away. He relies on crutches, and not normal ones either. These are weaponized, built to support his weight and act as tools in combat. Furthermore, there's that back support system, something like a brace or a frame, which likely helps keep his posture stable enough to stand and move. Now, if you're asking, is that enough? Probably not on its own. And that's where the second piece comes in. Azie isn't walking like a normal person. He's moving through damage, which means that there's strain, there's effort, and there's limitation. He's not doing anything athletic here, but only enduring it, like barely managing it. Number 10. Nick Dragotta had this Penguin design ready very early. Lastly, Scott Snyder said Absolute Penguin and Absolute Two-Face were two of Nick Dragotta's favorite designs and that Dragotta had done them really early in the run. Snyder also said that the version fans have seen is basically how Penguin looks with no gear, which suggests the creators have been planning a much bigger visual payoff for a long time. And that was all in this one, folks. It's pretty evident that Absolute Penguin is one of the most tragic penguins in all of DC Comics. And I'm sure Batman will have a really hard time dealing with him, especially since he used to be Bruce's friend. If you liked the video, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Those 2 clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these lore lockdowns. Stay safe and have a good one.